Are we up? Hello. I think. Yes. No. Yes. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Hello. There we go. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this second Changing the Ratio. I am Rashawn Ali, and I am the founder of Sporty Girls Incorporated. And I am so grateful that you have decided to join us tonight. And look, we are starting on time because we know all of us have been inundated with virtual meetings, virtual events. So we wanted to make sure that we make the most of your time. I am so grateful again for your presence. Tonight we are talking about a very a subject that is near and dear to my heart because I was a student athlete. The very reason that I wanted to start Sporty Girls Incorporated, in which I did in 2006, and we started our active programming in 2008. And since then, we've been able to serve over 1,500 girls in and around the metro Atlanta area. And so we are speaking to that athlete competing against the pandemic as a student athlete. And we have an amazing panel for you tonight. And our panelists are absolutely outstanding. And joining us tonight is my good friend, LaChina Robinson, ESPN basketball analyst. She's a philanthropist. She's an all-around amazing woman, and I'm so glad that she is joining us tonight. Welcome to Changing the Ratio, LaChina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk to everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have Brianna Pinto. She's a professional soccer player for Sky Blue FC. And we're going to talk more about everyone's background because these women have each and every woman has an amazing story. Brianna, welcome to Changing the Ratio. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. We're so honored to share space with you. Next, we have Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, JQ Smith. She's a sports brand strategist and so much more. Just a wealth of knowledge. And we're so happy that she is joining our panel tonight. JQ, welcome to Changing the Ratio.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Thank you so much. I look forward to speaking to everybody and just having a good time tonight.
Yes, I love that pink ball you had there. That was cute. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much again, ladies, for being here. And before we get started, I want to shout out our team, the PR Alliance, and also Stephanie Amaya Ingram, who has continued to support Sporty Girls through her Divinely Connected production. So thank you to Stephanie Amaya and each and every one of you who are out there in virtual land. I know we're on Facebook and YouTube, and it's just great. I'm just excited. So again, we appreciate your presence. So let's jump right into it, particularly for you, Brianna and Melissa. How has the pandemic presented limitations, or what types of limitations have you all been faced with because you are still active in your sport? Melissa, go ahead and kind of tackle that. What type of limitations have you had to endure?
Well, to start off, so since I do swim and run track, I've actually only been able to, while I'm at school, I've actually only been able to run track because a lot of the pools, especially when I was back home and the school shut down, a lot of the school pools weren't open because they're public pools in Atlanta. So finding a pool to train at was really hard. So I was more focused on track. And then back in November, I actually have to wear I don't know if you guys can see it. I have to wear a heart monitor now. I don't know if they can see it.
Really? Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Wow,
because I don't know if I had COVID. The times that I've tested have been negative, but I work with the athletic director as well, and we've had a lot of cases where people are just falling out of nowhere, and they said that it could be they had COVID before, we were all aware of it, and it's just an effect that happened. So I was really sick when COVID started, and I really don't get that sick, so maybe I had it, but just having this issue plus COVID and not training in big groups, smaller groups, less time to train, it's hard, especially when you already have a schedule in college, then you're trying to work around a different schedule. So
Right. So do they make all of you wear the heart monitors, or were you like experiencing something that made you say, I think I need, special attention for what may be going on?
I actually have like some skipped heartbeats that happen, so that's why they made me wear it. But a lot of our athletes who have had COVID, they have to go to the cardiologist before they can get cleared. But I just happen to have skipped heartbeats, and I went to the cardiologist and they put that on me.
Man, my goodness. So is there like a monitor that you have that is like with you at all times, or?
Yeah, so they gave us this like phone right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like while I'm practicing, like anytime my heart skips a beat, I just click on it and it like you tell the symptom and then you send it off to them. And so they'll call you and then you'll go through a series of questions and they just monitor it that way.
Wow. Wow. We're glad that, that you actually have the heart monitor so that, if anything were to go down, you will be, you're aware of it and they're aware of it as well. My goodness. People don't understand, like, the effects of what COVID has done, especially for your age group, because I know that for your age group, there have been a lot of residual effects that a lot of people aren't talking about. I saw a documentary, Real Sports, I think, with Brian Gumbel, and they were just kind of just really focusing on what young people and what they've gone through, particularly athletes. So it's been very interesting to see how COVID has really the long-term effects of COVID. Brianna, what about you? So you play with Sky Blue FC. How has the pandemic really kind of limited you all and what you do?
Yeah, so I actually declared for the NWSL draft, and I will be joining Sky Blue in May.
Okay.
I wanted to finish out my season with Carolina women's soccer, and we're chasing a national championship. But obviously, a lot that goes into that is sacrifice. And what's been keeping me motivated is the fact that we've been really, really blessed throughout this pandemic, and it obviously hasn't been the reality for everyone. So, Melissa, to hear that about you, it like breaks my heart, and it is a testament to how resilient you've been. That the fact that you're able to compete while also dealing with an issue like that. But
right.
My team has had a bubble. We've established a bubble, so we only live with teammates, and we're only allowed to see each other, and that's been going on since July. A lot of people have struggled with it because obviously we're human beings and we want to connect with each other. And for our freshmen, unfortunately, they haven't been able to meet people yet on campus. So they don't have in-person classes. They are new to the area, and they're expected to abide by the rules. And I think what we're going on is that we have something bigger at stake, and we have a responsibility to protect each other because we're all elite athletes, and we want to make sure that we don't bear the lasting effects of COVID. Contract it. So my team has been great. We supported each other throughout it. And we've organized events on the weekends to just hang in there and check in with each other. And I think being intentional has really served us well. So we had a successful season in the fall and didn't have any positive tests. And we hope to say the same this spring as we compete in our non-conference games and then eventually in the NCAA tournament.
How are you ladies like mentally, like making sure that you're okay? Because I don't think that we'll understand the research actually that's going to be done for athletes or just people in general. When we look back on this time, those findings won't be revealed for years to come. But what are you doing to make sure you're mentally okay?
Yeah. I would say I'm a woman of faith, so I dive into the Bible and just trust that there's going to be a plan and that we'll one day get out of this. But the other thing is I've been very fortunate to have my family 5 miles away from campus. So I'm able to get food with them on the weekends and check in. Obviously, we're 6 feet away and we usually have masks on when we're not eating. So we're just trying to protect each other. And that's been a really big help for me. And then obviously spending time with my roommates. They're all girls in my class and we have to do dinners together and we make sure that everybody's enjoying it and that they feel loved and valued and important at the end of the day because we all need to support each other. And everyone's dealing with this pandemic differently. So
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. Melissa, what about you?
For me, it's my college career has been very much me dealing with adversity. I came into college on a torn hamstring, so like for me, it's been like stuff happening back to back to back. But then I just kind of like, as I matured and grown over the past 4 years, I've just kind of tried to find the light in any situation that I have. So although like I was off the track for a little bit, I was behind stage, making sure like working with the athletic director and like doing Black Lives Matter stuff and like doing stuff that's bigger than sports. So that was the light in the situation, that I could work more closely with the athletic director and make stuff happen that couldn't happen before because we're so busy.
Right. My goodness. LaChina, as an analyst, philanthropist, former student, I guess when you say former student athlete, once you've been a student athlete, you're always a student athlete. I wear swimming and FAMU swimming across my chest everywhere I go. I am a student athlete. But when you hear stories like this, I know it's like, wow, that's obviously it's completely different from what we experienced. But on the broadcast side of things, navigating the pandemic, you have to call a game in like an hour from now. What have you seen from your vantage point, and how the resiliency or the weakness of some athletes having gone through this pandemic over the last year?
Yeah, Sean, thank you. And to be quite honest, listening to what these young women just shared is heartbreaking. That was not my experience as a student athlete, nor your experience as a student athlete, when you look at what they're going through physically or mentally. And I take this back to, when this all started, and the question was, there's COVID, but can we still have sports, right? And in my mind, in many instances, I felt this is ridiculous. Like, why are we talking about sports when we have something that's happening in our world that is detrimental to our health, right? Like, I've always seen sport as something that's more entertainment, or, it was my livelihood at one time. And so I've been very, I've just been torn since the very beginning about whether sports should be happening during COVID or not, especially because this is a virus that we don't know a lot about. I mean, just listening to, what student athlete stories have been around, whether it's the heart monitors or just not feeling like themselves after possibly contracting COVID. I think about, I watched the same Real Sports HBO special you did, and Aisha Durr, a young woman who played at Louisville and is in the WNBA and has been going through terrible things physically, since she had COVID. And so I'm heartbroken because we've always felt like our health was most important. And I do feel like there's been some time in sport where it doesn't seem like we're putting our athletes' health first. Now, with that being said, I've also had some conversations this season with athletes who feel like they want to proceed with playing sport. They understand the risk, but that sport is their sanctuary. Like, this is the place where they want to be, where they feel physically and mentally at their best. Everyone has a different situation at home, or maybe doesn't know what they would be doing if they weren't on campus competing. And so I've heard both sides of things, the concern about the health, but also the want to actually get out there and play and perform. And I know that coming from a team environment, sometimes even when you are torn, you feel like, okay, can I opt out? Does it look like I'm, kind of hating on my team? Am I letting them down? So there's so many different angles to this whole thing when it comes to sport. But what I've seen is a lot of sacrifice from student athletes this year, like literally the isolation, the quarantining, the shutdown periods. Like in college basketball, we've had teams that have gone 2 weeks to a month without playing a game, which means pretty much they're in isolation by themselves for long stretches of time. I know we heard the young lady say that, they can't interact with other people on campus. So you're not having the normal student athlete experience that you and I, Sean, were so lucky to have. And while I know, meeting other people and all those things aren't everything, your heart goes out to these student athletes who are practicing hard, ready to play a game, and then they find out their next 3 games are canceled.
Right.
Or contact tracing situation, and they find out that, you know, the team that they were supposed to be playing, now they're not. They got to switch gears and they're playing another team. So there's just a lot of perseverance, courage, you know, and honestly, just relentless character in these student athletes and these athletes that I'm seeing from my perspective, to continue to play the sport that they love.
Right. JQ, you know, I don't want us to, you know, be so like, because I hope that there are some young ladies who are considering being a student athlete. Let's talk about because we're going to get out of this. We're going to get out of this, God willing. Everything is going to be fine. We're going to see these babies in the Olympics. We're going to see Bree playing soccer professionally. Melissa's going to play it. She's going to swim and run track, all of that. So let's speak to the young lady 2 years from now who's going into college. You played basketball, JQ, and you were able to take your skills from the court into PR, and now you are just like a mover and a shaker in sports brand strategy. Tell us a little bit about your story and how sport helped you to become the woman that you are today.
I would say definitely perseverance. The family support that I had. There were times, honestly, where I didn't think I was good enough to play at the level that I wanted to play at, but having that family support and having that confidence, because as athletes, we all know that confidence will get you a long way in sports, right? So, you know, it was one of those things where the confidence and the family support, the courage that I had to continue to move forward, because I went to different schools. I mean, you talk about being able to balance and adjust. You know, my freshman year, I was playing at a D1 school in Maryland, and then I left there to go to Texas. Then I went to a JUCO in Texas. Then I went to a Division II school in North Carolina. So I jumped around a lot, and being able to adapt to those type of environments and just you know, pushing forward and, you know, having that support from your family and friends has definitely paved the way to where I am now. And of course, like I said, there are times where I doubt myself and I say, well, am I good enough? But the things that I have experienced as a former basketball player has molded me into the woman that I am, you know, today. And just working with these young athletes, a lot of people can tell I have a passion. I just have a passion working with the young athletes. But I also have to deal with the parents, because, you know, these parents want their kids to be successful. So when COVID first came out, you know, I was like, LaChina, I was on the fence. I didn't know if we should support pushing athletics forward or, you know, think about these young kids' health. So, you know, having to talk to those parents and get them to understand that there are different ways. I'm not sure if you guys know, but a lot of these high school athletes are in situations where they're not able to play in front of college coaches. So I've been able to guide and come up with different ways on how they can get to the next level, because a lot of these kids are falling into depression and giving up on themselves. And it's really a difficult moment. But like you all ladies said, you know, with the perseverance and the courage and the family support, that is definitely going to get us through, because like you said, we will be coming out of this really soon. But just pressing forward and just know that what's for you is going to happen. And I emphasize that to these young kids so much, that what is for you is for you. The thing, you know, things may not look bright right now, but if you keep doing what you're doing and remain confident and remain faithful, things are going to definitely happen for you.
Absolutely. JQ, what are you currently doing for those who don't know? Because I only gave you all's title. You all, like I said in the beginning, have such an extensive background. Your day-to-day, I know you alluded to helping athletes. What is it that you do day-to-day to help these athletes reach their highest potential?
Like I said, what I try to do is I try to find, you know, different ways on how to get these kids exposure to play at the next level, but also working with the parents, because I think when it comes to athletics, we need to reel in the parents and becoming involved in their recruiting, and not just as, you know, a guider for athletics, but just as a parent, and, you know, emphasizing to these parents that our kids need us right now. So, talking to these parents, holding Facebook group chats. I love to, interact with parents and student athletes and just have an open conversation, because sometimes, parents and athletes don't know who to run to. They're not open in what they're feeling, and having that community where you can just talk and vent and really ask those difficult questions, because that's what's needed, especially at a time like this. This is not a time to sugarcoat anything. So, having those open discussions, giving advice, on these consultation calls with the athletes. And I've been blessed to be able to work with Atlanta Express. They're one of the top boys basketball players in the nation. Being able to work with the program director on getting these kids involved outside of sports, finding what's their passion so they can reel in what they want to do if they don't get the opportunity to play at the next level. Because if you have a passion for anything, that's going to drive you. So, my day-to-day changes every day, but I just enjoy what I do, and just being able to speak to the parents and the young athletes, because I can only imagine. I've been out of school for about 10 years now, but I can't imagine what these kids are going through.
Right. And that's why these discussions like these are very important, so that we can give everybody a virtual hug. Seriously, because I know what it's like to be at the pool at 5:45 in the morning and then come back at 12 p.m. And then you seeing everybody on the yard like, you about to go. Oh, wow. You about to go watch TV. Man, you going to the calf? Oh, I can't do that. I got to go to my second practice. But I'm so happy because it gave me the discipline for my life. And I see everybody smiling on the panel because you understand the commitment that it takes to be a student athlete. And so we just love you, Bree and Melissa, and all the student athletes who are watching tonight. I'm so serious and just loving you from a distance. Melissa, let's talk about some of the great things that you've been able to accomplish. You were the first African American to swim and receive a scholarship from the University of North Carolina, Asheville. What does it mean for you exactly? That's awesome, to be a role model and to show people that you are not just a swimmer, but you're also a track star. That's phenomenal. How is your body able to do that?
I'm really not sure. That's up to God, and he said he did that for me. But I've been doing sports since I was a little girl. I think I learned to swim because my uncle always had me going out in the ocean. So, but yes, I didn't even realize until I was halfway through freshman year. I was like, I knew obviously I was the only Black person, but I just realized I'm the first Black swimmer. And then I was talking to some of the upperclassmen, and they were saying freshmen don't get scholarships, and I was like, I thought I deserved a scholarship, so I didn't even know until somebody told me. So it means a lot. I feel like I did deserve it. I do deserve it, and that was one of my goals, and I'm just pushing towards that. And with track, I actually wasn't running track for real until my my 7th grade teacher. She was a track star, she had a lot of school records and stuff like that. And she told me to run track. And so then I played around with it. So after state for swimming, I would go out and just run a couple of meets and play around with it. They were like, "You're actually fast." And I was like, okay. And so then when I came to college, my junior year, I started running track. And so
yeah,
it happened.
Man, that's fantastic. I can't wait for you to get back in the water, as much as you probably want to, with the pools and all of that. So, that is absolutely fantastic. Brianna, you all are still fighting towards this goal of getting this championship, and then you're transitioning into the pro world. How were you even introduced to soccer in the very beginning?
Yeah, so I come from a soccer family. My dad played at Carolina in the 90s. My mom played softball. Both my brothers played it as well. My older brother, Hassan, played undergrad at Elon University, and then he had a 5th year of eligibility, which he took to Duke. And then my younger brother's a freshman at Princeton. Excuse me. They weren't able to have their season, which was really, really sad for them. I know he wanted to be on campus, but Hopefully he'll be there in the fall, but he's recently been able to relocate to Cincinnati and play with their academy team for FC Cincinnati, which is a MLS club. But for me personally, like I wanted to do what my older brother was doing. He started playing at a young age, and being the younger sister, I wanted to follow suit, and I kind of fell in love with it. I've always been somebody who's competitive and always have wanted to hold my own. And growing up with two brothers, they made me tough. And when I was young, I played with the boys for a long time, and that set me up to have a lot of success because I was pushed. And I was expected to meet the same levels and even exceed the same levels that they were at. So without that development and without the support from my family over the years, I really wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm so grateful for all of them.
Good. So we're excited for your quest to get this championship as a leader on this team. And then as you transition to your next level, I think that's going to be something that we're all going to follow. And we are going to be rooting you along the way. LaChina, take us back to when you were a student athlete and what it was like, and what advice would you give to a young lady or young man who's, thinking about taking that leap, because it's not a leap that should be taken lightly. It is not.
No, especially when you brought me back to those early morning workouts.
Oh God.
You're going to work out, and everybody else is just sleep. Like everybody's
Right.
off everything. Campus is dark. It's not even light outside yet. The cafe's not even open for you to get any breakfast because it's 5 a.m.
Oh.
I remember those days, but Sean, and you guys all understand this. That's what makes you who you are. Like, I'll be honest with you. I would have stayed in my comfort zone had I not gone to college and become a student athlete. I come from a family. I am one of 16 children. So I've got a huge family.
What? I'm sorry.
I know.
Rewind. I knew this, but I just need to hear it again. One of 16.
One of 16, honey. And my mother would want me to tell you that not all of those kids are hers, right? But they're all blood related. And my dad probably needs to sit down with Oprah one day to tell us about how all that happened. But with that being said, I was the only child of those 16 children for a very long time to go to college, and the first student athlete. So we didn't know about college athletics and sports. Like, my mother was about education. My dad was more of a street guy, so he didn't even graduate from high school. And so it was a new experience. But the minute they told my mother I could get a free education, we needed that. Like, we could not afford college. And so for me to be able to go to school like Wake Forest for 4 years, and my mother was like, and all you have to do is play basketball? Oh, where are the papers? We're going to sign those right now, right? So it changed the trajectory of my life, quite honestly, and what was possible for me as a person in terms of character building. I mean, I wanted to go home so many times, couldn't make my mile time, wasn't in shape, all of those moments that you look back and you realize they just made you tougher. They build character. I have lifelong friends from my team, and learned how to set goals and all those different things. And yes, I wanted to quit, and yes, it got hard. But I don't think, and you guys can chime in on this, I don't think anything has taught me as many life lessons as sport has.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose, when you think you shouldn't. You're gonna win in some situations, and remember all of the hard work that went into it to get over the hump. There's injuries that you have to recover from. There's, teammates that transfer. There's all kinds of things that impact the journey along the way. And so I'm grateful. I really am, for my time as a student athlete. And I would encourage anyone out there, if you're in high school or if you're a student athlete and you're thinking maybe this is not for me, just try to give it a chance. Keep pushing and allow sport to make you uncomfortable, because that's really what the journey is, getting you used to feeling uncomfortable, to growing, to changing, to learning. And it's an experience that was life transforming for me.
Yeah. Understood. I echo those same sentiments. JQ, what was one of the things that helped you during your time in college to kind of continue to push through? Maybe that moment that you thought it was going to bend you, but not break you.
I would say my sophomore year, when I attended the JUCO in Texas. And the reason being is because we can be open, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I was not focused. You know, I had my mind on boys and trying to be in love, and I end up failing two courses. And given the opportunity to play at the Division I level. And at that time, if you wanted to attend a D1 school at a JUCO, you had to sit out a year. And I've never sat on anyone's bench, so that was
right. No, not I, said the cat. No,
I'm
right.
not going to someone's program and sit in the bench. So it was one of those things where I really had to think about my future and refocus and put myself back on the path that I knew I had to be on in order for me to be successful. That was the moment where I knew I had to get my stuff together, because I could have either, went to summer school and never did summer school before. And again, it was one of those things where I never been to summer school. Summer school are for people that are dumb, So, I had to make that decision to go to Division II. And it was really a pride thing, because at that point, everyone on my team was going to, high or mid-level Division I school. And here I am, the starting point guard, going to a Division II school. So, that was the moment where I knew I had to get myself together, because if I didn't, I knew I was going to lead down a path where I wasn't going to graduate. And, being the oldest out of three daughters and the first one, in my family to attend college, that was really big for me. So I didn't have no other choice. I had to do what I had to do, but that was definitely the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad you were able to transition that and be on this panel today to talk about it, because
Yes.
if you would have stayed, or you would have just, allowed yourself to be in that and stay there, we may not be having this conversation with you. So praise God, from whom our blessings flow. Amen. Yes. Melissa and Brianna, talk about some of your is the pandemic the most challenging thing that you have had to endure as an athlete? Oh, Melissa is shaking her head. Go ahead, baby. Go right ahead.
Just being 100% honest, I kind of was on the same page. As I haven't transitioned schools in college, but as JQ, my freshman year, I actually lost my scholarship because of some microaggression things that were going on. So although I was the black swimmer, I felt like I had nobody to talk to. I'm a freshman. I'm coming from a big city to a small city. I'm depressed. I came out of a toxic relationship. So I'm going through all this stuff. I'm not focused on swimming. And I felt like nobody was there to talk to me. I couldn't get any help. So I lost my scholarship. Well, I actually decided that I didn't want to be a part of that environment. It was hard for me because it was like, Melissa, you've been dealing with this your whole life, but like just with the whole moving to a whole city, my parents not being there, I was like, I can't be a part of this. Like my health, I had to decide that my health was first. And so I actually ended after conference. I ended swimming for my school. Sophomore year, I was sponsored by a swim company. And then that's when I decided to run track junior year. And then other than that, I had to figure out like, okay, this is still my goal, but it's just a different approach. So stuff kind of got harder. I had to find my own coach. My coach is in California sending me paper workouts. So I have to go to the pool, 5 a.m., train there, go to weights, go to track practice, go back to the pool, and then go to class and work in between. So that has like, I've gotten adjusted to it now, but like going through that. And then last year I got diagnosed with a muscle disorder. So it's called cramp fasciculation syndrome. So throughout the day, I have muscle spasms and muscle twitches. And then obviously if I'm training, it triggers those things. So going through all of that was pretty hard. And then on top of a pandemic was even more stressful because I actually lost my grandfather at the beginning of the pandemic. Right when they were like, we were at spring break and they're like, actually don't come back to school. So it was like kind of confusing at first for a long time. It was like, what is going on? Like, what are we doing? So it was confusing. And then that was supposed to be like Olympic trials, and the Olympic trials like actually were canceled. So like now we're going to next year. So for a long time, it was just a lot of confusion and a lot of stuff that was just like, I kept getting pushed down. But I mean, for me, it's just like, okay, now it's kind of like, the devil's like kind of trying to pull me down, but like, okay, you're boring now. Like I'm gonna still bounce back, So
So Melissa, like, how are you making sure, like, you're doing all of these things physically, you're doing all of these things, you're overcoming this diagnosis? I mean, who's pouring into you to make sure you keep that beautiful smile? What are you doing to keep that smile? I know God is with you, but God also says he creates people to help you. So if someone is watching this right now that may be dealing with a similar situation, how would you help them navigate all of the things that you have had to endure?
I mean, I think that for me, it was more of a realization that I didn't really realize how many people that I actually impacted. And then I started getting a lot of DMs. Like, I actually like ended up releasing a video about like the stuff that I was going through. And then that's when I started getting like a lot of DMs and like parents like, my daughter loves you. Like, and I was just like, okay. And it's like a lot of Black young girls or young kids. So I'm just like, okay, it's something bigger than
Yes,
myself. So
right. Wow. That's good. That's good. LaChina, when you hear a story like Melissa's, and you have to cover these athletes. Obviously, you got to cover a few in just a few minutes. When you hear stories like that, what does that do, or how does that resonate with you?
Well, one thing stands out to me, Sean, is that sometimes we don't give the student athletes the support that they need as they're transitioning into life on campus. And that's something that I can identify with me because I can identify with as well, because I went to a predominantly white campus and I was coming from a Black high school. And this is just one aspect of it in terms of transitioning from a cultural standpoint, but it was really hard for me. And it's a conversation I continue to have with a lot of the colleges and universities is, listen, it's hard transitioning into college, and especially depending on where you're from, what your background is, what your family's experience is when it comes to, college education, and that we have to make sure that student athletes are supported, that they are getting loved on, that they feel like they are important, that, it's not just about, okay, get good grades and perform, but that's a tough time as a young woman to come along. I mean, I came to campus at 17 years old. I knew nothing about nothing. Okay. And, adversity sets in, and it's just, I believe that colleges, universities, and athletic departments just have to do a better job of helping young people, transition. But I also just want to say Melissa is super duper strong, because since we've been on this call, everything she's talked about, I'm like, oh my goodness, if I was her age, I don't know where I would be. Like, literally, girl, you are queening it. You're persevering, you're pushing through, like, love your courage. And I also respect that you have found that motivation from inspiring other young girls. Like, seriously, sometimes you do find yourself alone and you got to figure out where to get that help. And get that extra push. So I think it's awesome that you're inspiring other young women. But honestly, Sean, I do believe that we have to help young people better transition into college, and then supporting them as people and not just athletes.
Yeah. Right. Brianna, have you felt that you've been supported throughout your collegiate career? And what challenges have you faced? It seems like it's been pretty good, but I know not everything looks like that, and not everything we experience is going to be that way. But what have you been able to, or what challenges have you been able to overcome in your collegiate career?
I think the transition back into school from like summer to fall was really interesting, because it was like right in the thick of the social justice movement after George Floyd, where teams were like forced to reconcile with how racism has manifested itself like in our society. And for me personally, I've had to become involved as a leader and as a panelist, and sort of as a bridge for those conversations, those difficult conversations with our counterparts. And like seeing the George Floyd video, that was extremely emotional for me, and it made me feel numb in a way. It actually took me a couple of weeks to watch, because I just thought it was just so horrible. And, having to be vulnerable and like lead those conversations about why Black people matter, like on a college campus, is difficult. And while I do want to help, I just hope that people see us for who we are and the content of our character, and continue to love Black people and amplify our voices, and make sure that they go that extra mile to educate themselves on how they could minimize microaggressions, or just level the playing field, really. So I've had a lot of support from our student athlete development, which has been great. They just make sure that we have all the resources that we need, and I have my teammates obviously to lean on. And one thing I'm really proud of was that my team read How to Be an Anti-Racist, and our head coach, Anson, he led the book discussions because he wanted to take the burden off of the Black players from having to explain.
Thank you, because it's not our job to teach them.
Yeah, so that was really, really helpful, and I think it opened the eyes of a lot of my teammates, and we all learned together. And we're going to continue that trend, and we're going to make sure that our program stands for racial equality, and that we value each one of our teammates equally. We'll read White Fragility next semester, and I think that will be really, really great. So I love that we're having educational things that we can incorporate into our sports environment, because that's the way that we all grow. And I don't think you can have sports without politics, if you will. I think we all need to make sure that we're using our platforms to speak out on what's right. So that's the way I've grown. But in terms of hardship, I mean, realistically, I came to Carolina because I wanted to win a national championship. And being a part of a legacy that has 22 national championships, that's obviously thin air. So in my freshman and sophomore year, we actually lost in the national championship back to back. So that was really, really tough, because it's been a dream of mine to finally win one. And I recently made the decision to go pro after our spring collegiate season. So I have one more chance to get it done, and I fully believe that my teammates and I will be resilient enough to overcome the pandemic and, fight for what we truly want. And I think all that sacrifice, all the hard work that we've done over the months, all the fitness, missing out on seeing our friends, I think that's going to hopefully help us get to where we want to go. So I'm looking forward to the months ahead, and then I'll join Sky Blue. And we joke that it's Carolina blue to sky blue. So I'm really, really blessed and grateful for everything that's going on in my life right now. And I've had so many wonderful people who have orchestrated a lot of things for me. So
Wow. That's great. That's fantastic. We're going to be cheering you on. But the way your manifestation is set up, I think you're going to have that national championship ring. Okay.
I'm going to wear my Carolina blue Jordans for you on game day. I'm going to wear my Jordans.
Even though you're an ACC foe, we usually don't cheer for Carolina, but I might have to be partial if we don't make it. I'll be cheering for you.
Right.
Because
LaChina, you're Wake Forest, right?
Oh yeah, we're right down the street. It's about an hour and 15 minutes away from Chapel Hill.
Yes.
Road. Yep.
Yes. JQ, when you hear these amazing student athletes and the athletes that you are helping, what is it? Their stories, different stories. How does it speak to you, and how you will continue to help student athletes moving forward? Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Hearing these different stories from these wonderful athletes, and as well as the parents, has given me that extra oomph of continuing to help them, because like I said earlier, not everyone that they come across have their best interest at heart. So when you have someone like me that really want to help these kids, because especially at a time like this, they need us. They need that support. They need that support from their parents, from their community, in that transition from high school to college. And, that just gives me that motivation each and every day that I get up. And I know that my purpose while I'm here on earth is to help these young athletes in becoming successful, and not just on the football field or the basketball court or the volleyball court. Is for them to be successful outside of their sport. And that's why I push and emphasize on finding what's their passion outside of their sport, because one of you ladies mentioned earlier, we're more than just athletes. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids don't know how to make that transition from college into the real world. So if we get a head start and educate these kids on what's really important in life, I just think that would help them out a lot when they make that transition out of college. And just hearing these stories and these aspirations that they have, or what they want to be and what they want to do for their community, just gives me the motivation and a drive to keep doing what I'm doing. And I mean, they keep me going. I mean, to be quite honest, working with both men and female athletes, just hearing these different stories has given me that extra drive, because I enjoy listening to their stories and trying to find ways on how to help them. And if I'm not the individual to help them, I'm going to lead them and direct them and guide them to that individual that can.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are now going to take some questions from our audience, and they're going to pop up on the screen. And thanks again to our technology team, because let me tell you something, all I had to do was click on today and they were all there. So thank you again for helping us out tonight. So we've got some questions coming in. If not, I'll keep there we go. Okay. Megan Hilly, I think I said that right. Let me do my thing real quick. Here we go.
Glasses.
There we go. To incoming freshman athletes, what tips and tricks have you learned through being an athlete during a pandemic that you can share with them, or lessons you've learned that you want to share? That's a big one. That's a big one. Let's try to make sure we keep it tight. We want to keep everybody in and out on time. Melissa, what tip would you give? Whether it's one or two, what tip would you give?
A tip that I would give is, you know yourself better than anyone else. Sometimes you're going to have to make hard decisions. And like the decision I had to make a decision whether I was going to continue my sport or not. And it's had its pros and cons, but you're going to have to make hard decisions. It's not going to be easy, but if you just stick with it, you'll be good.
Good. Oh, the level of maturity that you ladies have. I just didn't have that when I was your age. I just didn't. But that's why you are.
It took 4 years.
Awesome. Brianna, did you want to add anything?
Yes. We talked before a little bit about like who's filling our bucket. And I think we kind of have to be self-starters as student athletes, and make sure to always take time for you, because you can't be at your best unless you're feeling your best and you're happy to be where you are. So really being intentional about investing in whatever it may be that makes you happy or makes you feel good. And I think that will make the true difference in your success, especially during a pandemic. It's a hard time mentally and emotionally. So just make sure you spend your time wisely so that you can continue to have success both in school and in athletics.
And I will say, back way long time ago when I was a freshman coming into FAMU, which was traditionally, a school where, Wednesday night, the Q's gonna have Wicked Wednesday, I just couldn't go, y'all. I couldn't go because I had to be in the pool at 5:00 in the morning. So I literally had to have just like an enormous amount of discipline, but I also knew how to have balance. As a student athlete, being a swimmer, I was also on the radio. I also became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. Like I was a Queen of Argent Green. So I served on Miss FAMU in her court. So I had a really good balance, and it was pretty much like a preface to my life. I have so many things going on, but I'm like, I've always had a lot of things going on. So it really trained me to be this person that I am today. So I know it was pandemic specific, but many of these people in the next few years won't have to deal with, the pandemic. But, you would take those same type of ideals with you to have that balance, because you still have to be a person at the end of the day, because we can't swim or play soccer forever or play basketball forever. You still have to become whoever it is that you're going to become. So that would be my piece of advice. JQ or LaChina, would you like to join in, or we can go to the next question?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off what you and Brianna said was, balance and keeping your eye on the prize and remaining focused, because, going in as a freshman, there's going to be things that you want to do that you cannot do because you're a student athlete. So you have to make those sacrifices, but just know that you are on a mission. you have a goal that you have to accomplish, and you have to think long term. Because like you said, Rashawn, you might, there's a party on a Wednesday night, but if you go to that party and you get, mixed in with the wrong crowd, then, that's your future. So just making the smart decisions and just remaining focused.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The ladies have said it well. I'm good.
Right.
Yes.
Awesome. Another question here we have coming up. Simply Summer, what would you tell your younger self about preparing to be a successful student athlete? Ooh.
Yeah, I can take this one. I'd say live in the moment. Looking back, like how quickly these 3 years have flown by, I'm just kind of shocked because I came into Carolina so excited by everything, and I was just like so eager to meet as many people as I can, and that's so important because you're building your network for life. And I would definitely say that you should invest in things outside of your sport. Make sure that you meet your professors, meet people who aren't involved in athletics, build a community that helps you form an identity outside of just being an athlete. And I think you will enjoy your college experience to the fullest.
Nice.
I would also, Sean, say, one of the hardest parts of being a student athlete for me was realizing I wasn't a student athlete anymore. Like my senior year, after the ball stopped bouncing, I went to the basketball office and like, okay, what are we going to do now? And they're like, no, what are you going to do now? And so that time comes upon you really quickly. Mm-hmm. So while you're on campus, and Bree just kind of spoke to this, make sure that you're doing career exploration, that you're thinking about where you want to go when that 4 years is over. We all know that NCAA ad, less than 1% of student athletes will go pro. And so we're not all Bree, at least I wasn't. And so you have to start preparing for that next phase of life. So think about, career development, volunteering, internships, all of those things. And they'll try to say, you don't have time, you're a student athlete. You have to make time because you're only a student athlete for this long and you're going to be in the workforce much longer. So if you have a chance to shadow or do internships or do career exploration, do that. Just make sure that there are 3 areas that you still got to be building because that time does go fast. Your career aspirations, your community aspirations, meaning, philanthropy, what does you care about in the community, and then your character. Still work on those 3 things from the moment you step on campus, and no matter what happens, how many games you win, lose, or draw, you will feel like that experience will be worth it because you'll be ready for the next phase of life.
Nice. Anybody else want to add before we jump into the next question?
I would say not just only pertaining to sports, but in life, understand that there's going to be trials and tribulations. When I was a student athlete, I thought things should be perfect, but when those times did come where I wasn't getting the playing time and, I wasn't performing at the highest level, I had to understand that things were happening for a reason. And I don't want to get too biblical on here or anything, but, when you go through things, God is doing it for a reason. He's preparing you for the next level. So just understanding that things are not going to be perfect, allowing those opportunities, if you fail at, not being a starter on your squad, or you don't come in first or second place in your meet, just understand that that's only preparing you for the next level. And you just got to keep working hard. And as I said before, just remain focused.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. Do we have more questions? Carrie C, what are your perceived barriers to accessing mental health services? Wow. Melissa or Brianna, have you, maybe you or a teammate or a friend, have they experienced any barriers, or has your school been pretty open to just providing you resources?
Go for it.
My school is pretty good with mental health because it's a liberal arts school. But as far as like the sports, you can see the difference of like how mental health is focused more on like non-athletes versus athletes. And that's been a topic of discussion. And that's literally been my job for the past 3 years to fix that. So we've been fixing that. But like I said, my freshman year, being Black, coming to a PWI, it was like I can't talk to you because you don't understand. You know what I'm saying? And then, like we said, coming back with all the social justice stuff going on, it's just like it was hard. But now, it's been more of a understanding and more of an opening. But just building that. If it's not there, building it.
Yeah, I would add that like Carolina's done a good job advertising the resources that they have to offer, but one barrier to getting that mental health support that a lot of people need is the kind of the shame around it. I know a lot of student athletes are talking about mental health more often in the media, and I think that's important because we don't always have it all together, and it's okay not to always have it together. So I think like that should be an integral part of our development as
Yeah.
in college. I think everybody should go just to just check in on how you're doing because we all again go through trials and tribulations like JQ just said, and we need to make sure that we're managing it. And then one thing that Carolina has done well is that they've tried to make this CAP staff, so the mental health resource staff, more diverse because to Melissa's point, you need people who you can relate with to have an honest, meaningful conversation. So I'm really appreciative of the efforts that they've made to make those resources as helpful as possible.
Good. That's fantastic. We're going to take our last two questions because LaChina, if you need to jump off, I understand because you made me quite aware of that.
I got
okay, cool. So we'll do two more questions and we'll wrap up. And again, thank you all for being with us tonight. We're so very, very appreciative. Kayla Bradham, I hope I'm saying that right. Who is your hero/heroine? That is a good one. JQ, let's start with you.
I would say my mother.
Okay.
My mother is my hero. She had me when she was 17. She was an all-star athlete at her local high school as a track runner, and she had her professors, her teachers, and her principal telling her that being that she was pregnant at a young age, she wouldn't be successful in life. So just seeing her overcome so much adversity and doubt, and people telling her she wasn't going to be anything, and raising three beautiful daughters and putting all of us in college and with a free education. Yeah, she's my hero. I mean, it's so much more I can say, but I'm gonna let the other ladies speak. But yeah, definitely my mother.
Yes, fantastic. LaChina.
Oh man, I have a lot of heroes, and my mom would definitely be one of them. But one I actually have on my wall now. See if I can turn it the right way. I don't know if y'all can see her, but that is Wilma Rudolph.
Yes.
Crossing the finish line here with the baton in her hand. And I keep that picture up as a reminder of Wilma's story of perseverance. I'm sure all of you know it, but she couldn't even walk for most of her childhood. And then she became one of the fastest women in the world. And if you can do that, you can do anything, okay?
Right.
Being able to walk, I mean, imagine just the shame and this getting over it mentally, but also physically, not being able to use your legs properly for years and then breaking out of that. That just, when I see her crossing that finish line, I mean, every morning I get chills and I get inspired by her journey and her courage, and that if you can go from not walking to being the fastest woman in the world, you can do anything. So
wow, that's
one of my heroes for Black History Month.
Yes, absolutely. Melissa, what about you?
Like everybody else, my mom, my dad, a recent hero that I've added to my list is my friend who I don't know if he had COVID or not, but he did fall out in practice and he actually went into a coma. Wow. But he recently woke up, thank God. So he's been trying to get back playing and get back right, and it's just he's so humble about it. He's such a humble person, and I'm really glad to see him just keep trying after that, because that's obviously big.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Brianna.
Yeah, to everyone else's point, my family has obviously been big heroes in my life. They've guided me every step of the way, so I'm extremely grateful for all that they've done for me. Yes. In terms of sports, I would say Serena Williams. She is in a predominantly white sport, and she became the face of it, and she overcame adversity, and that's admirable to me because I'm kind of in the same boat with soccer, and I want to make sure that I figure out a way to rise to the top of the game. And I want to make sure that I create opportunities for other young Black girls to have the same opportunities that I've had, and even better in the future. So I kind of want to make sure that I pave the way and kind of trailblaze in that sense. So I just love everything that she's about, and how much she's persevered throughout her career. So
yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, my parents are mine, but also Robin Roberts is a huge inspiration, hero to me. She actually, in DeKalb County, we couldn't swim for some reason in 8th grade. I don't know. That was like in the 80s. No, yeah, it was in the 80s. And they wouldn't allow the sub-freshmen to swim. And 8th grade was actually high school then. So we had to pick another sport. So I was like, basketball. And I played point guard and was pretty good. And she came to my basketball banquet and spoke. And at the time, she was a sports reporter in radio, local radio here in Atlanta. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to talk about sports on the radio. And so I did it. And then just watch her career in television. My journey is not going to be just like hers, but if it's, slightly similar, she's always been an inspiration. And the fact that she's overcome cancer twice, and the fact that she can love her partner openly as she adores her sweet Amber. I just love their love. And I love how she loves her family. I just love her. I literally love this woman. And she's been a huge inspiration for me in the world of sport and news and television, and just how she embraces life. And so I just admire her. So, and I think she knows that. I've left it on her Instagram page. Many people have told her, we're gonna have a sit down interview one day. I'm gonna have to manifest that. It's gonna be fabulous, and everyone's gonna talk about it. Yep. All right, guys, it's 7:07. We're gonna take our last question and we'll wrap things up. Last question for the night. Brianna Clyburn, what do you think sports will look like after the pandemic is over? Do you predict any major changes in the way people compete? JQ, I think you should answer that.
That is a really good question. Do I think things will be different after the pandemic in the way that they compete?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But what I will say is I do think it's going to be different when it comes to the recruiting exposure. I think a lot of college coaches are going to utilize the social media platforms of finding these high school athletes because we all know that their schedule is really hectic, but utilizing social media and, communicating with a lot of these AAU coaches and club coaches and high school coaches. So in that aspect, I do think it would change. But as far as competing, I highly doubt it. Yeah.
Anybody else have a different opinion or kind of echo those same sentiments before we close out?
I would echo the same sentiments. Like I do think social media will continue to be a big part of it. I think we'll see student athletes picking schools that may be geographically closer to home. I think parents often felt too far for their kids to be from them in a pandemic. I think a lot of prospective student athletes started looking at the importance of being able to be close to home, even if it's just from a mental health standpoint of being able to go home, be refreshed with everything we have going in our world, and, getting back out there and pursuing whatever they're pursuing. But I do think that school selection will be a little bit different after what we went through in the last year.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, ladies, Brianna said, shout out to the mamas. That's right. We in here. Well, ladies, thank you so much. I have been inspired by your stories, and everyone has seen your social media handles so that they can continue to follow you and support you and lift you up in whatever way feels good energy and good, all of that good stuff. We're sending you great vibes. So thank you to Brianna Pinto, Melissa Brown, JQ Smith, and LaChina Robinson. I am Rashawn Ali. Please continue to support Sporty Girls. We've got much more to come at Sporty Girls Inc. on Instagram, sportygirlsinc.org that's our website, and follow us on Facebook as well. Thank you again to the PR Alliance. Keisha Brewer is a superstar, and she has really helped to elevate Sporty Girls throughout this pandemic. So I met her during this pandemic, and she has helped me change the ratio with Sporty Girls. So thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Continued success on everything. Be well. Tell somebody to tell somebody about Sporty Girls. We're continuing to do the work, and please support these amazing ladies. Ladies, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Rashawn. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.